Hasn't even hit bookstores yet, but it's already causing a lot of controversy. In the book, she says that leaving the decision to run again up to President Biden alone was, quote unquote, reckless. She also accused his team of not having her back as vice president. But reportedly, her side of the story isn't going down well with the Biden team. Gee, what a surprise. They are pushing back and saying that she was the main cause of her own problems, okay? So it sounds like there's no love lost in that little camp. Yeah, but I find it sad, frankly.
Boy. So we got to talk about more infighting and backstabbing that apparently is happening within the Democrat Party, okay? Kamala Harris has wrote a book that she knows that nobody's going to read. Nobody's going to buy it, okay? So in order to entice people to read and to buy the book, she's basically throwing all of her colleagues under the bus, right? In this book, some of the excerpts that have come out from the book are clearly designed to get people interested in something that people otherwise would not be interested in, okay? However, it's too little, too late, right? A lot of this stuff she probably should have said on the campaign trail, okay, when she decided to run for president, but she didn't. And just like Jake Tapper, just like Cringe Jean-Pierre, being too late on this stuff, right? Trying to grift off of the disaster of the Democrat Party after the fact, right? Not when it was actually happening. I just don't think that many people are going to be buying this book or going for this. But regardless, covering what is said in the book is interesting, okay? Even though I'm not going to buy the book, and I'm pretty sure a lot of you guys are probably not going to buy the book. But it is interesting and entertaining to listen to Democrats stab each other in the back. So without further ado, let's go ahead and get into this.
Kamala's selling out her friends to sell her new book. And there's no coming back from this. Kamala's going after the First Lady, Jill Biden. Remember when Jill kissed Doug at the State of the Union?
Yo, this will never not be weird to me, bro. This should have been the weirdo moment of the Democrat Party, right? This should have been a wake-up moment, and everybody should have said, you know what? This party is super weird, right? Like, this is weird stuff, okay? You got Jill Biden and Doug Emhoff kissing, right? Kissing, making out for the world to see. And people think that's normal? Look at this black lady looking like that's normal. You black. You know damn well that's not normal. But when you're black and you're Democrat, you got to go along with stuff like this, right? Like it's normal, okay?
Well, the doctor pulled Doug aside on the 4th. Doug thought he was getting another kiss. Instead, he got threatened. Jill Biden said, "Are you supporting us?" Doug responded, of course, we're supporting you." "Okay, that's really important. We need to know that." Doug got angry. And you won't like him very much when he's angry.
Yeah, I'm surprised that Doug didn't use that pimp hand on Jill, right? You question my loyalty, B? Like, I'm surprised he didn't use that pimp hand, apparently. That pimp hand's strong, okay? This is Doug Pimp Hand Emhoff. I'm surprised he didn't Emhoff. He didn't completely Emhoff Joe Biden. Did he ever address that? Did Doug Emhoff or Kamala ever address that story about Doug beating his women in the past? Has anybody like thoroughly addressed that, right? Have we actually litigated this?
He complained to his wife, quote, "They hide you away for 4 years, give you impossible bleep jobs, don't correct the record when those tasks are mischaracterized, and still they have to ask if we're loyal." Kamala.
Yeah. So I think what he's referring to when he talks about give you impossible-ish jobs is specifically the border. Because the argument from Kamala's team is that she didn't want the border, right? She didn't want to be the quote-unquote border czar because she's woke. She believes in open borders. And the basic Democrat Party would be upset if Democrats don't have open borders. If they actually enforced our immigration laws, that would be against what she believes in. And she knew that it was an impossible situation. It was damn you do, damn you don't. If she actually did the job of closing the border, enforcing our immigration laws, she would lose her progressive street cred, right? However, again, allowing the border to be open, which is what they did, also made her the person responsible for what happened to this country with the illegal immigrants flooding into the country, tens of millions of illegal immigrants, because of the fact that, again, she was made border czar, in which the mainstream little media tried to claim that that was never a thing, right? That Kamala was never border czar. Y'all remember that? Y'all remember that type of propaganda that little media tried to push on the American people, that Kamala was never border czar? Wow. Wow.
Regrets not throwing Biden under her electric bus earlier. She said this moment was like pulling the pin on a hand grenade. Watch.
Would you have done something differently than President Biden during the past 4 years?
There is not a thing that comes to mind in terms of, and I've been a part of most of the decisions that have had impact.
Well, at the very least, Kamala Harris is self-aware enough to know, right? She's self-aware enough to know that this was the moment that ruined her career, okay? Not being able to differentiate herself from Joe Biden in any meaningful way is, I think, what ruined her campaign. I think she would have lost regardless, right? Because she's a far-left progressive, and I don't think that she would be able to run away from that, okay? Even if she threw Biden under the bus. But Biden told her no daylight, right? No daylight between us. You cannot come out here and criticize my administration, right? You take 100% responsibility for what happened during my administration because you were vice president. I'm pretty sure at this point, Kamala probably believes that accepting that DEI job was a bad idea, okay? Willie Brown, her former lover, told her, hey, don't take that job, right? Don't take that VP job. Go be attorney general. But she decided to take the VP job anyways, and that killed her presidential aspirations because I think that's her ceiling, which is kind of wild to think about because she can't even win a California's governor's race, right? This is why she decided not to run, because she can't outright win, okay? And if she was to lose that governor's race, then that would be a complete and total embarrassment for her career. So, yeah, I mean, I think that her accepting that job instead of becoming attorney general, I think is what ruined her opportunity to run for president, even though I don't think that she ever had any real chances of becoming president. What she did as VP basically confirmed to the country that, yeah, this woman should never be president of the United States.
Kamala tried being graceful, and it killed her campaign. Biden, he was bitter. He threatened Kamala on the night of her debate. And then the day after, put on a Trump hat. Kamala says MAGA Joe's ego really hurt her. She needed somebody in her corner, but her VP was a huge disappointment. Kamala watched Tampon nod along with Vance at the VP debate and was yelling at her TV screen. You're not here to make friends with the guy who's attacking your running mate. We know Tampon wasn't her first pick. She wanted Mayor Pete, but thought he was too gay. Pete read the book, and he's not happy with Mamala.
I was surprised when I read that. I just believe in giving Americans more credit than that. My experience in politics has been that the way that you earn trust with voters is based mostly on what they think you're going to do for their lives, not on categories.
Yeah, again, the irony here is crazy. So you have a Democrat who believed that one of her colleagues was too gay for a job, right? Now, again, these people always point the fingers at conservatives, right, and say, oh, we're the bigots, okay? But yet she literally believed that one of her colleagues, who she was considering to be her running mate, was too gay for the job, right? No, he's too gay, right? He's too gay. Now, I'm pretty sure what she actually really meant is that, well, the country's too bigoted to have a black female as president and a gay man as vice president. I think that's probably what she actually was getting at there, okay? But again, what you see here is a Democrat refusing to hire somebody, right, because of them being gay, right? I mean, clear, overt discrimination. Not something that I can really say I've seen, at least this explicitly, from a Republican, right? Could you imagine a Republican coming out here and saying, well, I didn't pick this guy because he's too gay? Could you imagine how these people will be saying, oh, that's hate and bigotry? But when Kamala does it, oh, well, hey, it's just political strategy, right? It's just political strategy.
Kamala had her eye on Pennsylvania Governor Josh Shapiro, too, but thought he'd steal the spotlight from her and thought he was too cocky. Shapiro kept asking his aides about how he should redecorate the VP's residence. And he's not happy with Harris either. Shapiro says Kamala was part of the cover-up.
Look, I haven't read the former vice president's book, and she's going to have to answer to how she was in the room and yet never said anything publicly.
Kamala tried calling Newsom too, but he sent her to voicemail. Quote, hiking. We'll call back, wrote the former vice president in her notes from her calls that day. Never called her back. Newsom's smart enough not to jump on a sinking ship. Waltz, the perfect sucker for the job. At least he got cupcakes for election night that had to be redecorated as the results rolled in. Quote, Harris's social secretary peeled icing that read Madam President off the cupcakes that had been ordered for the occasion and sent them out to the campaign staffers along with wine. Trump called Kamala after she conceded. Turns out the dictator wasn't so mean. Quote, I'm going to be so nice and respectful. You are a tough, smart customer, and I say that with great respect. And you also have a beautiful name. I got use out of that name. It's Kamala. Democrats are in deep. Their last nominees on a book tour trashing the party, and the bench is full of commies and crazies. Right now, the betting markets have Hunter ahead of Crooked, Beto, and Bernie. He's the only Democrat that can blow through $2 billion quicker than Kamala.
Yo, Jesse Waters is hilarious. He really is. Yeah, I mean, what you have here is more backstabbing. Again, this is what I try to tell you guys about the Democrat Party. They're the party of snakes and backstabbers. Because again, this woman, Kamala, decided to throw all of her colleagues under the bus, right? Pete's too gay. Josh Shapiro is trying to steal her spotlight. These are all people who she considered to be her VP, okay? And for those people, at least their careers seem to be somewhat intact, right, due to the fact that she didn't pick them, okay? But everybody else that was associated with that train wreck, including Kamala, it seems as if, again, her career is over, right? Even people like Stephen A. Smith, he's coming out and saying that, hey, that Kamala's career is over at this point.
I believe Kamala Harris's political career is over. I think you've seen the last of her with this book, politically. I'm quite sure she's a highly intelligent woman, very accomplished. She's a former state attorney general. She's a former senator. She's a former vice president of the United States, and obviously the Democratic nominee for the presidency of the United States in 2024. But this was the last straw, and I'm going to tell you why. Because although I'm certainly not an advocate of her diming out her boss and talking about whatever deficiencies he may have had, you could have said something. You could have done something other than what you did. And I don't want to hear about 107 days, and that's all you had. You know what 107 days gave you? It gave you the opportunity to take over the campaign and do it your way instead of capitulating to what his people wanted you to do and you doing whatever you thought was necessary under the realm or the guise of loyalty and costing, and in some people's eyes, costing yourself the presidency. There are things that she could have done that was more effective. Don't get me started with her appearance on The View. Don't get me started with when Sonny Houston looked at her and said, is there anything that you would do differently than Joe Biden? And I can't think of anything. Nobody wants to hear that when the country was in the state that it was in, and we knew that change was the order of the day, and you had a candidate that was not only using her rhetoric, her verbiage, and the lack thereof from him, but also was accusing her as hiding and engaging in his own definition of machismo or misogynism or whatever you want to call it, to point out how he was a man's man and he goes everywhere and he talks to everyone, while she was not willing to do that initially. And then you come out with a book in the aftermath of it all, and you've talked about Pete Buttigieg and, him being gay, or you talked about Josh Shapiro, the governor that I just interviewed the other day, and you talked about him being too eager for the vice presidency when he was clearly a better choice than Tim Walz, or you want to talk about Gavin Newsom now, but you wouldn't do it before. Nobody's trying to hear that now. That is the candidate that's on her way out the door, and I'm not saying I wish it. I've had the pleasure of meeting her once before. She is a very nice person, very accomplished. I respect her, but when I look at the excerpts from this book, it's too little, too late. And that's what this comes down to. As far as I am concerned, I believe, and I hope I'm wrong, but I believe her political career is over. The minute people buy the book and read it with the stuff that she could have said and the stuff that she could have done, but refrained from doing, which obviously contributed to her losing the election, it's too little, too late. Are you in it to win it or not? She wasn't. And that is that.
Yeah, so it's hard for me to disagree with what Stephen A. just said there. I definitely think that Kamala's career is legitimately over. I don't think that she can win a Democrat primary at this point, which, again, is really sad considering how she was VP, right? She's supposed to be the next up by default, right? By default, she's supposed to be the favorite. I think at this point, President Trump has a better chance of winning a third term. even though he's not constitutionally eligible, than Kamala has of becoming president, which again just shows you how sad things are for Kamala Harris right now. And I think that this book, because of the fact that she is openly kind of throwing everybody on the bus, really kind of shows you that it's over, right? Like, she doesn't feel like she needs the support of these people, that she's clearly backstabbing, okay, moving forward into the future, because she's not going to run for office, right? I don't think that she's going to run in 2028. I legitimately believe that is over for her, right? I legitimately believe that this is going to be the last that we hear about Kamala Harris, and that's why she's going out swinging, right? She's going out swinging, trying to sell a book that nobody is going to buy, okay? And, you know, hey, that's the Democrat Party. Again, they're a party of snakes and backstabbers, and that's exactly what you have happening here. I think that Kamala probably should have been more critical of herself more than anybody else. But as we see, accountability, right, is kryptonite for a Democrat. So I'm not surprised that Kamala is blaming everybody except herself. So let me know what you guys think. Make sure you like, comment, and subscribe. Most importantly, share a Black conservative perspective. Peace.